Tell me what's been your favorite part of the procurement process?
My favorite, the awards.
There we go, Denise. I didn't think it was anything else. No, joking.
My favorite, I don't know that I have nothing specifically a favorite, but I enjoy, responding, I do a lot of the negotiation behind the scene. And that is
I've heard from OTI too.
Yeah, I do a lot. I'm a very strong person when it comes down to negotiation, and I also take it at a personal level, as if it's my own money. So my goal is to make sure the city really constantly saves money. It's not about just that procurement. It's how can I make a difference for the response for that city agency to meet their budget, to create a response that's valuable, sustainable, yet saving money for the city of New York. And that's something that has been my core strength, and I usually just deliver it naturally. No one asks me to do anything outside of it, but I just do it because that is one of my strengths, and I feel that is one of the reasons, perhaps, when I go out and I respond, we are successful because I really put the best interest for the city of New York. And that's having really good skin in the game. Not every typical vendor will do that, or a contractor. So I tell this to all MWBE, you need to understand the city. You could respond any bids to the city, but you really have to negotiate as if you're buying that product for yourself. And if you could do that, you'll be successful to respond to the city.
That's greatly put, Denise. That's greatly put. Yeah. Any favorite part of the procurement process?
I think because I am not someone who has been in the procurement process as much as Denise, my favorite part would still be getting out there and actually obtaining contacts and learning the new vendors they need to procure from. We don't always sell every manufacturer, but if there is a way for me to develop that relationship with a new manufacturer for the betterment of the city, or because I know the city needs a product, then I'm going to make it, and I might go out of my way to develop a new relationship with a manufacturer.
That's great.
So that's one of my favorite parts, actually.
How has your experience been in working with other MWBEs?
We work with many MWBE, and we, work with them. We subcontract, they subcontract us. There's various opportunities that we work constantly, all the time.
Denise, how are you finding these MWBEs? Are you finding vendors at events, through Passport?
I have traditionally found them in pre-bids conference, at SBS, at a citywide event. People share business cards.
Yes.
I also honestly look at the OGS contract
schedules.
They post MWBs and WBs, so you could see. Traditionally, I like to go and see someone that is already certified, because I will need to align with them properly, and they could sell that commodity. So that's my way of pre-qualifying.
Yeah, and at times it's not even a contract that we're going to work. Perhaps it's something that we need for our own organization, and it's a good joint opportunity to collaborate on something.
Love it.
Yeah.
That you guys are giving back to the vendors, and not only mentoring them or giving them advice, but actually giving them an opportunity to get in the door with the city, which is so imperative. So thank you for that. I want to talk a little bit about securing a successful future for MWBE contracting.
Mm-hmm.
Denise, going back, what would you have wished you knew starting on, now that you know, in the procurement process or just contracting with the city?
The understanding of how to respond to an effective contract, how to bid it and price it properly.
Tell me, why is that important?
Because you could undercut yourself and lose money. or you could end up not doing such a great job because you undercut a project and then come back and find yourself in underwater. As a small business, you need to understand, especially when it comes to services, how to actually quote a business, not just respond for the sake of responding, right? You have to price it, you have to really calculate. And going into a city agency, especially if you've never been there, there's a lot of wasting time, there's stop and go. You got to encounter for everything, not just the actual hours you're going to do the work. So once you understand that, then you can actually put a good RFP. And it might not be the lowest bidder, but it is going to be the best response, because you're not sometimes graded based on lowest bidder, but rather by the best service, or depending what that commodity or how important that is to that agency. And with that said, it's important that you gain that experience. And only by going through the process of doing many different bids that you learn that. It's not something that you're going to learn on a mentorship program, but you can actually learn from a mentorship program how to actually be a better contractor. And that is very important for all MWBE to go and invest their time on it.
I loved your response. I think that it's so imperative to sort of understand the solicitation in its wholeness, and I think what you touched upon is so imperative that one has to look at what the award criteria is in order for one to assess how they're responding. Like you said, is it based on the price? And so you take that into a significant factor. Is it based on the quality of the response or the quality of the service that one is providing? So I think it's great that you touched on that, and you indicated, you went through responding to various solicitations to really understand that, and that's amazing. Now, what advice would you give to MWBEs starting their journey out in the contracting process?
I would say knock on the door very hard. I would say be tenacious. We've been in business for 36 years, 37 years. I'm tenacious every day.
I see that.
So if you could do that, I think if it's your own business, you should have the drive to want to go and continue working. You're going to fall on your face, and you need to pick up and actually keep continuing on doing the same and growing and finding ways to, do better every day. That's my best advice, However, you have to align your services with that agency. Do not just think that every agency will need your service. So it's important that you sit down and do alignment. There's many different websites that the city offers, and also on Passport, you could see what agency buy and procure, and you could align your services. Not every agency will buy your service, but that's one more reason why you should do that homework.
Denise, now tell me, why is it so imperative for vendors that are starting off with the city to attend events or pre-bid or pre-proposal conferences?
Because they're gonna know, they're gonna meet the agency, they're gonna understand the scope, they're gonna learn a lot more at the pre-bid conference. They're gonna network with other prime contractors. They might not necessarily win that bid, but they'll be introduced to other prime that they could go and be subbed at times. And sometimes you'll go to a pre-bid conference and you'll know, and you quickly find out it's not something you'll be able to bid on. Right then and there, you cut your losses. So I've done many pre-bid conferences where I've thought I would be able to bid, and I would go back and go to a pre-bid conference and then realize that pre-bid conference saved me a ton of money because I didn't bid blindly. And I was able to size that I couldn't do this, or I could do a portion of it, then I would have to pitch my portion to a prime. So that is how you become stronger and bigger by working with other primes.
Denise, we were talking about this prior to starting our conversation, but one of the things that struck me was when you had shared that to understand the procurement lingo, you went on to take an agency chief contracting officer test. Tell me what drove you to do that, or how do you understand the procurement lingo now?
So, you know, when I started working in the government space, I didn't understand none of the lingo, and I would give up every day, and I would go home and say, I'm not going to be able to be successful at this.
Yeah.
And SBS offered a, test and a book study, I remember, and I went for it, and I just wanted to understand what was involved and how complex it was. And little I know, I found out how I really learned how to be able to relate to an ACO or a procurement officer, and the rules and the methodology of the, how the city procurement was, and the amount of dollars. You have different thresholds between 25,000, 150, 100,000, and $1 million, and when do you need bonding, and so on and forth. And really, it opened my eyes on how to be able to respond and understand procurement and relate to the agency. I don't think I would have been this successful had I not spent the amount of time understanding agency. And every agency works different, but overall, you're all the same to me.
I admire your passion. I hope you know that.
Thank you.
For both of you, what advice would you give to our city contracting agencies interacting with MWBE? So we're pivoting. Yeah.
So my advice, I would say, a couple of things to the agency. First, please be cognizant that these small MWBE really need their money faster. So please approve the invoices faster and pay them. I would appreciate if the agency would look at a newcomer, MWBE comer, at a different eye and give them that opportunity and open your doors to them. We all started somewhere, and we all started small, and I think it takes one little purchase and you'll learn how to that agency, so giving them an opportunity. And I would also ask, do not go to the same vendor over and over, and please spread the wealth.
Yeah, I hope you know that with the MWBE non-competitive small purchase method, the MWBE PQL directive, which is the pre-qualified list directive that MOX has MOX has really submitted their guidance on or given out a directive to agencies. We are definitely mindful, at least from MOX's side, that there needs to be an expansion of the vendor competition pool. There needs to be an expansion of various kinds of MWBEs working with the City of New York and getting that opportunity. So well said.
Yeah.
How about you? Any advice for city agencies?
I think the last point, especially, listen to the newcomers. I really agree with that. It resonates with me.
Yeah.
I do see a lot, like in the neighborhood session, I interacted and networked with a lot of our MWBEs after, and they had a lot of questions, and they perhaps did not feel that they were actually making progress. But, I told them, it's just stay at it and, let the city agency see you for who you are, attend the networking events, because eventually, yes, they're going to recognize you.
And the other thing I want to say, just to add to that, when we spoke to them, we also told them what they have to do to prepare their insurances and their documents and have them already in their network so they could upload them to the RFP. A lot of them didn't understand the involvement of how all those documents are so important to the response, and how mission critical that everything had to be aligned, because they'll work on the bid and half of their paperwork would not be ready and they miss the deadline. So we encourage a lot of MWBE to make sure that they have all that in order in their network.
That's great.
So they could upload it much faster and then respond in timely manner. Because they are best at what they know how to do. But when it comes down to a lot of this documentation, it takes good administration.
Absolutely.
From an inside administrator in the company. I myself have to look for it. And we have someone in our company that's dedicated to compliance.
Yeah.
And we got to make sure that all these documents are on our files, the latest date, and that we insure, by the way, when we insure the entire city agencies for the whole year. So whenever we requested a COI, it's already in file. We don't have to request it from our broker. So
that's really smart. Yeah.
So that saves a lot of time to MBEs, and MWBE, I should say, and that should be something that you invest on, because I think it's a great tool to have readily available. Some RFP or RFQ and passport do not have many days. Sometimes it's emergency procurement.
Exactly.
And they're 2-3 days, and you need to respond. And at times your broker is not available. So ensuring the city as a whole and having those COI on file, it's huge to your response. And that's one thing, just one thing a lot of people do not really realize.
I think that's great. I think that's great advice that you're telling vendors in regards to giving them advice and having some sort of document repository where for the, the standard insurance or bond or, their standard documents, there's something that they could readily tap into. Denise and Danielle, while I can keep going for hours on this, I really want to thank you for your time, for your dedication to the city of New York. I think this was a great discussion on learning more about your business, your passion, what you do, and how imperatively you have really given back to the MWBE community and the city of New York. So thank you so much for your time, and I'm looking forward to having additional discussions as such. Thank you.
For having us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for Max for inviting us for this, and thank you for the New York City.
Thank
Really
you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.